Hey Startup Nation, I am so glad you came back to join us for another edition of the Startup Life. You clearly are ready to get the tools you need to get ahead of the competition. Go ahead and give us a 5-star rating while you're here. Now, if you're looking for an ad-free experience, go ahead and sign up for our Patreon page, where you will get exclusive content and access to our digital products that we're beginning to launch. The link is there in the show notes. And if you want to ask questions directly to some of our guests, follow the Startup Life Podcast Club on Clubhouse, as some of our conversations will start to happen there. But back to the task at hand. Are you ready to level up? Of course you are. Get ready as the Startup Life Podcast begins now.
It's time to be about that life, the startup life. Here's your host, Dominic Lawson.
All right, Startup Nation. So I hope you're ready to receive some value today. My name is Dominic Lawson, and this is the Startup Life, the show for entrepreneurs and career-minded professionals. You know, Startup Nation, when we talk about this entrepreneurial journey, this mindset, this grind, if you will, there's one word that comes to mind. It starts with an H. We know it as hustle. And my next guest knows all about that. He is the founder of Massage on the Go Memphis. He's also co-host of the Sell or Fail podcast, and he's also a minister. We're going to talk about that a little bit. He is the one and only Samuel B. Nelson. Big Sam, what's up, boss?
Hey, how you doing, brother?
I am living a dream as always, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I appreciate you.
Man, thank you for having me, man. I'm looking forward to talking to you.
All righty. Sounds great. So, you know, Sam, before we kind of get into it and stuff like that, you know what I mean? You know, I know what you've been doing and stuff like that the past year and stuff like that. But, you know, with this whole COVID thing and the pandemic and wearing masks and the whole nine, man, a lot of people have been, you know, learning lessons, both professional and personal, man. I'm just curious, man, what's some lessons, either professional or personally, man, that you have learned over this past year that you foresee, you know, kind of taking into the future?
Man, always be learning.
I hear that.
And that's one thing that I was saying before this, but also make sure you're learning information that will help you for the future and not just right now.
Right.
And that's one thing I really had to adapt to learning, because if you have the money, you'll pay to use your time for something else.
That's
but
true.
because of Corona time, you know, we had the time, so we need to sit back and take advantage of that time. And when I say all that, I started taking Google Analytic classes and Google Ad classes and how to do social media marketing, learning more about the hashtags, how all the social media work, and just, you know, more about advertising and branding, you know, and, you know, we all know branding is telling your story,
right.
But if we're telling the same story the same way versus telling the story in snippets and bites on social media,
That's true.
You know, because there's a whole different audience. So you can
Right.
take this same story and just retell it a different way. So just learning stuff like that.
For sure. You know, there's three things I want to unpack there that, you know, you talked about just now. The first one is about, you know, the little snippets on social media, and that's a different type of, you know, target audience and stuff like that. We just had on Sandra Nash. You had Sandra Nash on your show as well. And she was talking about that very thing as far as like, you know, there's one mindset when you're on LinkedIn. There's another mindset when you're on Instagram. There's another mindset when you're on TikTok. There's another mindset when you're on Facebook. And so as the entrepreneur trying to understand, you know, that mindset and that audience, you know, and trying to figure out how to direct that message. So I appreciate you talking about that as well. And you also talked about two different things that I want to talk about, where one, you talked about always be learning and learning. You learn SEO and stuff like that. I know a lot of people are kind of, you know, hopping on the Google Analytics and learning that part of SEO. But we've been saying for a long time, and I'm glad you brought it up, as far as like, you know, when there's a standstill in the economy, man, like there's an opportunity to learn and grow. So that way you'll be bigger, badder, and better on the other side of it. And the last thing you talked about, I want to address was, you know, we heard this from David Cote, who used to run Honeywell. We heard this from Mark Randolph, from co-founder of Netflix. And we're hearing it from you now, which means you're definitely in, you know, one of the smartest business minds we've had on the show, Sam. So kudos to you on that, man. But for sure. But, you know, but it's that whole thing about like knowing what you are right now, but also thinking about what you're going to be after the fact. So, man, a lot of nuggets you just dropped, man. I just wanted to make sure I highlighted each one of those because I thought they were important.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you so much. You know, as the saying goes, the person perished for the lack of knowledge. And that's really the situation. And things that become stagnant die. Because you got to think about Blockbuster, and I'm not knocking Blockbuster, but if they would have saw what Netflix saw, they could have been Netflix.
Right.
And if you remember when Blockbuster started coming out with the blue machine, right by the Netflix machine, because they tried to hop on their business model, and then there's no more Blockbusters. But they was there first.
That's true. That's true. And it's funny. We asked Mark when he came on the show about that very deal, because he was in the room when they had the chance to buy Netflix Blockbuster. That is. So thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that. So let's talk about your business, man. It's Massage on the Go. And Startup Nation, if you want to check out Massage on the Go and the knowings and goings, or maybe you want to book a massage, go to massageonthegomemphis.com. We have a link there in the show notes for easy access if you listen to the replay on the podcast, man. So tell me the origin story about Massage on the Go, man. Were you the one always like, giving the ladies massages when you was taking them out on dates or something like that? Tell me that origin story, man.
No, man. Actually, I was a biochemical engineer major.
Okay.
In college.
Okay.
Yeah. In middle school, I know there was when I was younger, but I really fell in love with science and learning the periodic tables, and I got inducted into the Junior National Science Association.
That's what's up.
Back in White Station Middle School.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I fell in love with, like I said, science, animals, math, but I also fell in love with the hustle. And growing up in Bethel Grove, Orange Mound area, seeing certain people become very successful,
of course,
and not working ideal jobs, motivated me to kind of work for myself. And I also, growing up in a situation where, we weren't rich, and when you ask your parents, hey, can I have XYZ? We can't afford that right now. And you get tired of hearing you can't afford it right now. And they probably get it to you a little bit later.
For sure.
But a lot of things happen. So since I was you said what?
No, I was just saying you bringing me back to my childhood when I had a conversation with my mom trying to get the Game Boy at the time. She's like, we can't afford that right now. So you try to make a way, on your own. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to reinforce that point.
No, you good. You good. And I got to a point, like even like with the Game Boy and all that, I just played on my cousin's house. Only thing I remember asking for is Mortal Kombat, because I love Bruce Lee. I always wanted to be a ninja.
Right.
When I was little. But right. But all that being said, I started off cutting yards with my cousin's lawnmower. I told her I cut her yard for free, and then I go around the neighborhood. Had like 2 or 3 yards I would cut. Right. And I was about 10, 12 years old. So I got in middle school, 6th grade, when they split up school. That's when my father was working at Bryce Corporation.
Gotcha.
And so every Friday he gave us baseball cards and candy. So I keep the baseball cards because I think I can get money in the future off of these. Right. And I took the candy to Sherwood Middle School, and I started selling it.
Right.
So from that day forth, I am who I am. Went from bootlegging, selling the candy to CDs, knockoff CDs, and then we got a deal with some partners from China, and I was selling Gucci material, and that's how I paid for a lot of stuff in college. And I had a little job at UPS and then Sports Authority. And then while I was in college, I was sitting there working at Sports Authority, I can't even say it, Sports Authority and UPS at the same time. And then I started putting in swimming pools. And I'm like, man, I really need a better job while I'm in school. Right. And I was sitting on my mom's couch. And this guy was booked, African-American guy, or African guy, had a thick accent. He was charging $150 an hour. He was booked. He was booked for the next 6 months.
Gotcha.
And I was like, man, I think I can do that. Right. And I faith is my biggest thing. I felt like Peter. I walked out on faith, and I went to massage school. Never had a massage. Didn't know anything about Massage on the Go. massage therapy.
Right.
And I enrolled, and I just worked my butt off to pay for school. Worked at UPS still. I got fired from there. I quit UPS, and I started driving forklifts for a while,
right,
to pay for massage school. And then I left college and started my own business.
Gotcha. Let me ask you this, man. Like when you started your business, right? In retrospect, did you ever think like, man, I shouldn't have been working on nobody's job? No way. Cause like you get that taste of entrepreneurship. And I know you personally, man. I know you all about that hustle. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I guess I'm curious, do you ever think back, it's like, man, I should have did this a long time ago. I already knew what to do.
Yeah.
Go talk about that a little bit if you don't mind.
Yeah. I never wanted to work for nobody.
Fair enough.
The longest job I ever had was 6 months.
Right.
So I every job I worked was a paid internship.
Gotcha.
I just asked a whole bunch of questions and tried to figure it out. And then actually as soon as I got out of massage school, everybody I knew and some people I didn't know that were entrepreneurs, I asked them, can I take them to lunch? When I tell you I'm scraping by, trying to take these folks to lunch and pay my little bills, but Jay Nail, she owned the nail salon that everybody knew about. I took her to lunch. This guy that had a logistics business, I had bumped into him and I took him to lunch. I had worked at the University Club on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. I did massages there. And every one of those business owners I massage, I asked them what they do, how did they do it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just constantly learning because I never wanted my fate can be tied up in somebody else. Right. And growing up the way I grew up, I realized that Walmart can close, somebody, whatever company you work for can one day be closed and bought out. But if you got the hustle, the know-how, you constantly diversifying your palate, diversifying your mind, diversifying your income, you're unstoppable. I always feel like if you got 8 different things you can do, you can always adapt to the situation. As long as you know the rules, you can win the game.
For sure. As long as you know the rules, you can win the game. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yep.
For sure. And now Startup Nation, to kind of give you some context of, Sam and him building Massage on the Go, we pulled up an article from the Memphis Business Journal where he was featured, just to kind of give you some context as to what we're talking about. Quote, in 2016, Massage on the Go had 200 licensed massage therapists in 21 states. Now the Memphis-based company has more than doubled both the counts with 550 therapists in all 50 states. And I'm pretty sure that's probably even more now because this article is from a while ago. But one of the things you talk about in that article, man, is the 10-3-1 sales technique. Kind of talk about that and scaling your company, man.
Yeah. So when we got the Gerber Food contract, we do Gerber Food in 8 different states. They have a health fair and they have employee appreciation days. So I always go after businesses that have a big footprint. If you go fishing, you fish for the big mouth bass, but if a brim bites your hook, you're not really mad that you still caught a fish. So what I say that is, if you talk to 10 people, 3 will listen, 1 will buy. So I talk to 10 of the biggest companies that I know, 3 of them will listen, but somebody tell somebody else about it, then 1 will buy. But that 1 that buy has 25 locations. So your company can scale quicker if you're going after the biggest fish in the sea. But like I tell everybody, before you go after the big fish, that's why I use the fishing analogy. Learn how to catch that brim first.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
That's
if you
facts, big facts. Yeah.
You have a good system, because if you going after the bass, you're only focusing on the bass. When they brim, if you ever go fishing and you get that brim first, you know how to take the hook out the mouth. You know how to deal with the fish, things of that nature. So when you scale up and you catch these big fish, when things get out of hand, it's just a bigger problem. But you realize with that smaller situation with the fish, it's just a bigger problem with the same thing you had with this.
For sure.
Know how to deal with those situations better.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And I'm glad you brought up the fishing analogy, because it's a perfect metaphor for scaling up and stuff like that. Because I remember talking to a few entrepreneurs at a gathering, and they was talking about, man, I can't get big contracts and this, that, and the other. And it's kind of, the game is fixed or whatever the case may be. And that's another podcast for another day, because there are some elements to that. But my point is like, hey, look, man, let's start asking questions, man. What the financials look like? What the, have you been like working on like with smaller type of like, smaller clients or whatever? You're like, nah, man, I'm trying to go after the big fish, man. I'm trying to dream big. Like, and I get it, right? I would never tell anybody to be like, dream small or anything like that. But you got to learn the ropes. You know what I mean? Like, you got to scale up properly. You know what I mean? Like, you get to like, nobody goes through, unless you just a prodigy or something. Nobody goes through the minor leagues and then up to the show just off bat, unless you're a prodigy or something. Like, nah, most of those cats, man, they work them ways up through the minor leagues. You know what I mean? So that way, when you get to the show, you straight. You more than straight. Yep. So I appreciate you sharing that, Sam, for sure, because that's important for Startup Nation to know.
Yep, you got to go through it, man. I remember my first nationwide contract was in Texas. Mm-hmm. It was right when my father was dying, so I remember that.
No, my condolences.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you, man. Thank you. But it was, it was tied to that memory, and I was like, wow, I finally got one of my larger contracts, but I had an issue. First contract, it was issue. And I handled the issue. The company said, well, thank you so much. And they booked us again. But if I didn't have those little issues locally and figured out how to, deal with the situation, that company wouldn't have booked us again. The customer service probably wouldn't have been the same. I didn't know how a system in place. That's why I tell people to read the E-Myth Revisited. I love that book.
Okay.
It's a really good book. And it helps people understand how to develop a cookie cutter process. And the three people that you need to run a business: you need an entrepreneur who's a dreamer, you need the office manager who's the organizer, and then you need the technician, the person that's actually doing the job. Because most entrepreneurs try to be all three, and you can't be all three to run a successful business. For
sure. No, it's funny you mentioned that. We talked to Tom Eisman, Harvard business professor. He wrote a book to that same effect. And he talked about that, like, trying to be all three, get you the right co-founder, and stuff like that. And I appreciate that. Something else I wanted to ask you, real quick about Sam, and it's kind of based in an article, because look, we're in a day and age where entrepreneurship and stuff like that is a bit trendy, right? Like, people think it's like idea, video montage, and then like boats and houses, you know what I mean? And we all know, on this show, that ain't true at all. You know what I mean? But one of the things that I think also gets taken for granted, since it's kind of so trendy, is how we treat employees and finding the right employees and finding the right team and help and something like that. And one of the things you said in that article I thought stood out. It says, quote, we don't pay the most. And this is when, Startup Nation, when he's looking for licensed massage therapists around the country, quote, we don't pay the most, but we pay the most often. We are locking in contracts with companies to be part of their wellness program, end quote. So, I thought that was important. It goes back to your point as far as like, being to a point first to be able to get those large contracts, and then getting the help that you need in order to fill those contracts. But also kind of talk about, if you don't mind, Sam, outside of like, just being able to do the job, what are you looking for when you find those licensed therapists? Because I imagine they're not just like doing the job, they're representing the brand, and it's a brand you've done, you've took the time, been meticulous in building and scaling, man. Talk about that a little bit.
And we try to make sure that so what we do is, and I know it's going to sound tedious, but it's very, very, very good to do this, because that person, like you said, is number one, touching people. Right. They are number two, company. And then you want to make sure that the person is good ethics at the same time. Right. So what we do is we actually call all the people that ever work for us. We actually call the school and talk to the people at the school that you graduated from. Oh, wow. To see how you are as a person. Okay. So we want to make sure, because again, you get out there and you're a good massage therapist, but you got the worst attitude. Right.
And massage therapy it's a people person. It's a people a person's business. You know what I mean? So no, that makes complete sense.
Right. So, and if you massaging somebody and they ask you, hey, can you do this area a little bit more? And now you rolling your eyes and say, I get back to it. I'm like, come on, you can't talk to people like that.
Right.
So you got to have good customer service. And that's one of our main things. Number two, we make sure that your license is up to date and that you have at least 2 years. Now, we will get you right out of school if the teachers recommend you well,
right.
And said you did a really good job.
Right.
But we try to make sure you have 2 years of experience. And a lot of people don't know, depends on the state that you're in. State of Tennessee, you have to have 25 hours every 2 years of continuing education courses.
Gotcha.
It just depends on the state. So we also have to make sure that you're up to date per state, and then California and Ohio is per county, if I'm not mistaken.
Gotcha.
But we try to make sure that everything is up to date on that end.
Gotcha. And you bring up an important point, man, because I know, later in the article, you're talking about you want to scale globally and stuff like that because they have, some of the companies and contracts you have like sister, companies and offices and elsewhere and stuff like that. But you bring up an important point. Yeah, exactly. You bring up an important point when scaling, though, that it ain't just as easy as just rolling up into Ohio, rolling up into Iowa, say, yeah, I'm here to massage your people, man. It's like, no, hold up, because everybody has different insurance requirements. Everybody has different regulation requirements and stuff like that. So I appreciate you highlighting that, Sam, for sure.
Yeah, and you got to think about the taxes. So every time I do business in every state I do business in,
right,
I got to pay. You got to pay the state. You got to pay the boss to do business in their state. And some people want you to pay per county. So you got to make sure that your taxes is up to date. And that's why I try to tell people get a bank account with a locally owned small bank that can help you get a better line of credit, and you can continue to have working capital. Because that 30-day wait, 90-day wait on your money to come in, you got to make payroll. You got to keep marketing. You got to keep taking people out to lunch. And that's how you grow your business. Right.
Because I imagine when you talk about that net 30, net 60, that varies upon the organization, right? Like maybe Gerber does net 30, maybe, this corporation does net 60 or something. So you have to keep up with that cash flow and that working capital like you talk about. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
For sure.
And you got to make sure you got a relationship. Every contract we ever done, I know the person in payroll. I know the person in account.
Right.
I try to make sure that you're cool with that person because, you got to think about you call in sick. That person might call in sick and it's been 30 days and then it's 50 days. And you're like, what's going on?
Right.
Well, sister is sick. And I'm like, oh, well, is her son doing okay? They're like, well, you really know? Like, yeah, I know. What my check is? What check is?
Exactly.
So, yeah, you just building their relationship with everybody.
Exactly. And it's funny you mentioned that because, one of the biggest things that we try to get over to Startup Nation that's like, it's not only just building a relationship, which you talked about, but you also talked about a part that doesn't get talked about enough, I think, is maintaining the relationship because it's maintaining the relationship. When you talk about the, like the soccer practice or the son or wherever the case may be, that builds even more rapport, which means that like when that net 90, that net 30 turns into net 35, you probably gives a little wiggle room, a little grace, from maybe from that person.
You're right. And custom, yeah. Try being a salesman. And I'm trying to say it the most politically correct way as possible, but
keep it real, Sam. It's okay. You keep it real on the startup life, brother.
You got to be smooth. You can't come in there as this is what I need, this is what I want. No, you got to cultivate the situation. You have to date your clients.
Right.
And if you're not dating your clients, which means collecting data about your clients so you can make sure that they staying open, why they not open, can you suggest, like I did a deal with I ain't gonna say everybody's name, but I did a deal with a big company, and then another bigger company. They called me out the blue and say, "Hey, well, do you know such and such as this company?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know them well. I shot ball with them." He's like, "Oh, okay. Well, can you introduce me?" And I'm like, "Wow, and because I cultivated their relationship, they nice people. I was being nice. This other company heard that we had a contract with them, and then they end up doing a deal together."
Gotcha. Gotcha. No, that's what's up. That's what's up. And both of those people are going to remember you connecting them together. So
right. And that's how you start making money too. People do business with people that they like.
Facts.
I don't care how big your marketing strategy. If people don't like you, they ain't gonna do business with you.
They not. They most definitely not. For sure. Thank you for sharing that, Sam. All right, Startup Nation. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We got to pay some bills. Once again, my name is Dominic Lawson, and you're listening to The Startup Life. Hey, Startup Nation. Imagine a job where you can work wherever you want, on whatever you want, from wherever you want. Hello to white sand beaches of Thailand or the comfort of your own couch. Oh, and most importantly, you're your own boss. Now, what if I told you that the dream job could become your reality? This is the life of a freelancer, and with some hard work and with the help of Hectic, it can be your life too. Hectic is an all-in-one business management software built specifically for freelancers who are just getting started or looking to take their freelance business to the next level. Hectic is everything a freelancer needs to get started, from an easy-to-use contracts and proposals builder to client management and project tracking to expenses and invoicing that features click-to-play technology that makes it quick and easy for freelancers to get paid. And we all want to get paid, Startup Nation. Built specifically for freelancers, Hectic is everything you need to get started. Visit gethecticapp.com/the startup life now to learn more and start for free. Yep. Adding your first client on the platform will always be free. And if you sign up through gethecticapp.com/the startup life, you'll be supporting me and this podcast, because who couldn't use a little support these days, Startup Nation? Visit gethecticapp.com/the startup life to find everything you need to start or grow your freelancing business today, and put those in-demand skills to good use in the way you've always dreamed of. The link is there in the show notes. All right, Startup Nation, welcome back as we continue our conversation with today's guest here on The Startup Life. Once again, Startup Nation, we are talking to Samuel B. Nesson, the founder and CEO of Massage on the Go. And if you want to know the noise are going, or maybe you need, that you got that neck tightened a little bit, stuff like that, go to MassageOnTheGoMemphis.com. We have a link there in the show notes for easy access if you listen to the replay on the podcast. Now, quick transition here a little bit, because I know that, we had this pandemic, right? And I know you've been doing really well as far as transitioning, making sure everybody's safe and stuff like that. Kind of talk about some of those pivots you took during the pandemic within the business, right? Because I know you had the massage gun, you was doing some content about self-massaging. Kind of talk about that a little bit.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I got interviewed, or going in the middle of getting interviewed for an article because of that, how I pivoted. So when the pandemic first hit, I applied for that first round of PPP. I got the PPP, and then again, going back to learning, I learned how to get massage equipment wholesale. But in the middle of doing that, I also learned how to get masks wholesale as well.
Gotcha.
So the return, sell to the people that are calling you. Nobody was really calling about the massage guns. I did the data research. You go to Google Trends, you type in massage, the first 5 things that pop up, the massage gun was the number one.
Gotcha.
And then when you click on state by state, I looked at their research. I'm like, okay, so there is a clientele there. I think it's 2,000 people on Amazon selling them. So like I said, I did all the data research on there. I was like, okay, I can make money off of this with this PPP money. But I also kept hearing the news, and the news said they kept having shortages on masks, hand sanitizers, and all that. So who are you going to sell to? The people that's having a shortage on it, that really need it, I can get a bigger turnaround quicker, or these massage guns that I got to push on people? So I went to the mask. So I had massage on the go. We had a medical, because medical massages of Memphis is this. So we just pushed it up on the medical massage of Memphis and massage on the go. And I sold masks, I sold body bags, I sold the coronavirus test, I sold hand sanitizer, gloves. I done all that. And then when that money finally came back in, I had a bigger pile of money to start selling massage guns.
Right.
So I got the massage guns come in wholesale, and then I had a good deal with them, so they can focus on carpal tunnel syndrome, sciatica, migraine headaches, plantar fasciitis, hip dysplasia, knee dysplasia. Athletes, stay-at-home moms, is a self-massager. You hold it with your hand, and you be able to massage anywhere on your body. And we had videos to demonstrate how to use it on each other, how to use it on yourself. And it kept scaling. Now we have 500 more coming in. Again, going with this same principle that I told you, we only invested in about 100 first. We didn't run into Facebook ads. We tried to see how many we can sell by just posting on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. And from there, it took us 90 days to sell 100. Gotcha. And we was like, okay, we made a good return, but it wasn't fast enough. So we did the data, looked around. We're gonna buy 500, but now we're gonna put money into the Google AdWords, Google Analytics, Facebook ads, things of that nature, and see would that speed up the process of selling them.
I hear that. No, I appreciate that for sure. Now, Sam, besides for running Massage on the Go Memphis and stuff like that, you're very active in the community. Me and you have mentored at STS Enterprises, where we mentor young kids and stuff like that. But I also know you are very proud, and you talked about this at the top of the show. You're very proud of your neighborhood, Orange Mound. You know what I mean? And for Startup Nation, for those of you who are not aware of Orange Mound, very historical Black community here in Memphis, Tennessee. I believe it's the first known African American neighborhood in the country, isn't it?
Well,
or something like that.
It is. It's the second Black-owned home neighborhood.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, Harlem is number one. Number two is Orange Mound.
Gotcha. Yeah, right. No, but in that same vein, I know we've had two alum of the Startup Life to come on the show. Kelvin Woods has been on the show, and Manir Safia Jones, who now is about to do a whole show about the Mound on the OWN network, talks about Orange Mound as well. What is it about that community, Sam, that's personally for you that has helped shape you and helped mold you to the person you are today?
Man, like I said, being an entrepreneur, and it's something else I wanted to tell you too.
Go ahead.
About the pivot part. I also started another company called Infology.
Okay.
And you'll see that come out next week.
Okay.
But basically, women are now getting more Brazilian butt lifts and mummy makeovers. And once you receive that surgery, you have to get 10 massages to make sure that your lymphatic system is doing correctly. So that niche came because, like I said, people started calling me, asking me about it. And I was like, well, if these people calling me, I started researching to see exactly where the most of these surgeries are and people flying in. So we developed a way through Lymphology, is the name of the company. And you can just go to the website, you type in your state, and all the therapists in your state that performs that type of massage is there. And you can book to our website just like that.
Gotcha. No, I think that's interesting. Like I've been binge watching this show on Netflix called Schitt's Creek. And so one of the cool things that they did on the show is like the family, like one member of the family has like an apothecary business. The other one like owns a hotel and something like that. And then another one does something else. But all of those businesses kind of like work together where there's kind of like this cohesiveness where one feeds into the other. And so clearly in the massage game, what you're doing, and then now those two things feed into each other. I know a lot of smart business owners do exactly that. So I hope you caught that, Startup Nation, because I think that's important.
Oh, yeah. Well, when I talk to kids, I always tell them to think of an apple. And then when you look at the apple, you can sell the apple, you can sell apple slices, you can sell apple juice, apple pie, apple preserve, but all of it start with that apple. Just think of how many different ways you can make money off this one thing.
For sure. No, I think that's super important. So I appreciate you sharing that for sure, man. So once again, Startup Nation, we're going to start actually wrapping up with Samuel B. Nelson, founder and CEO of MassageOnTheGo.com. And once again, we have that link there in the show notes for easy access if you're listening to the replay on the podcast. Let me ask you this, man, kind of transition here just a little bit, because like, you know, you talked about your childhood and stuff like that. And I kind of scrolled through your Instagram a little bit, and I saw that you posted a picture of like G.I. Joe wearing masks, or Cobra Commander actually, and his team wearing masks. And also I saw you had a Thundercats shirt and stuff like that. So I got to ask you, man, favorite Saturday morning cartoon of all time. What is it?
Man, Thundercats was number one.
Okay.
Before I fell in love with Dragon Ball. And I want to make sure I answered your question about Orange Mound.
Yeah, go for it, man. Go for it. Yeah.
But yeah, Orange Mound, man. I love I actually grew up in Lamar Airways area. That's
okay.
Road. They call it the suburbs of Orange Mound, but they cross the street from each other.
Gotcha.
But my church is in Orange Mound. I'm an associate minister there every Sunday. You look on my Facebook page. I'm teaching Sunday school.
Right.
I did the Black Men March in Orange Mound when we marched through the streets just trying to have peace. Orange Mound has meant a lot to me. That neighborhood itself has meant a lot. And if you look at the history of Orange Mound, it was just like the Black Wall Street that was bombed. You know, it was a lot of people there that were business owners.
Right,
and that area was designed to segregate Black people from white people, because that's why Airways Shopping Center is there. Everything that they needed. So they built it so everybody would stay right there. And by doing that, they cultivated a neighborhood before the crime set in, you know, back in the 80s when everywhere in Black neighborhoods were taken over because of crack cocaine. But before that happened, and even in the midst of that happened, you had a lot of successful Black businesses there that were legit. You know, we weren't selling dope, we weren't pimping and prostitution and all that, bootlegging and all that. We had legit businesses going on, and I like that history and the camaraderie of Orange Mound. And it's still like that today. There are some good people in Orange Mound.
Yeah, that's one of the things we definitely see come out of the Orange Mound community, especially that camaraderie for sure. You know, and it really is like its own, like, like city, if you will, especially, you know, all meet at Friday nights to go to a Melrose High School football game or something like that. So
get your good old turkey leg while you're sitting there.
Right, for sure. For sure. So look, man, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you so much for providing so much great value and expertise. And again, Startup Nation, if you want to know the knowings and goings of Samuel B. Nelson and everything he has going on, go to MassageOnTheGo.Memphis.com. We have a link there in the show notes for easy access if you're listening to the replay on a podcast. Hey, Sam, anything else you want to plug while we're here, man, before we kind of wrap it up for today?
Man, no, man. I'm just, whoever listening to this, whatever your dream is, jump out on it as early as you can so you can fail as often as you can, so you can get up as soon as you can and make everything happen.
Awesome stuff. And that's going to wrap up this session of the Startup Life. We want to once again thank Samuel B. Nelson for coming on the show. Thank you so much, boss.
Right, thank you.
No worries. And as always, Startup Nation, if you have an idea, be about that life, the Startup Life. If you want to let us know what you think about the show, have an idea for a show topic, or would like to advertise on a show, send us a message. Our contact information is there in the show notes, or feel free to reach out to us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Go ahead and follow us while you're at it. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast One, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and be sure to hit us with that 5-star rating. We would really appreciate that. Be sure to check out the show's website and its startup blog, where either I or some of the world's best business minds share content that will give you the edge you need in your journey, whether that's the path of entrepreneurship or climbing the corporate ladder. Subscribe to our Patreon to listen to ad-free episodes, exclusive content, and digital products that we are beginning to offer. And if you want to be part of the conversation, join the Startup Life podcast on Clubhouse to have the ability to talk directly to some of our guests. And as always, Startup Nation, if you have an idea, be about that life, the Startup Life.